As I sat across from David in his dimly lit apartment, the weight of his confession hung heavy in the air. His deep secret, one that he had kept buried for years, was now laid bare before me. The revelation was shocking, a betrayal of trust on a level I had never imagined. "I never meant for any of this to happen," David murmured, his eyes downcast. "I was lost, and this was my way of coping." I leaned back, absorbing the impact of his words. "Coping with what, David?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He hesitated, then looked up, meeting my gaze with a raw vulnerability that pierced through the layers of our strained relationship. "With the fact that I'm gay," he confessed, his voice trembling slightly. The room seemed to spin around me as I processed his admission. This was not just a secret. It was a seismic shift in the foundation of our family dynamics. How could I have been so blind? "Why didn't you tell anyone?" I managed to ask, my mind racing. David sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Who would I have told? Our parents? They would never understand. Michael? He's always been so protective, so rigid in his views. And you, I didn't want to burden you with this." I shook my head, feeling a mix of anger and empathy. "You didn't burden me, David. You deceived us. You hid who you are behind this facade of normality." He nodded, his expression pained. "I know, it was wrong, but I was scared. Scared of losing everything I had built. Scared of being rejected." The conversation lingered in the air, each word heavier than the last. As I left David's apartment, the weight of his confession settled deep within me, a catalyst for change that I couldn't ignore. Back home, I found Michael in the living room, his face etched with concern. "How did it go with David?" he asked, his tone cautious. I took a deep breath, preparing myself for the inevitable confrontation. It went deeper than we thought," I replied, choosing my words carefully. Michael frowned, sensing the gravity of the situation. "What do you mean?" I met his gaze, steeling myself for the fallout. "David told me something personal, something that changes everything." His eyes narrowed, suspicion clouding his features. What kind of secret could be so earth-shattering? I swallowed hard, knowing there was no turning back. "He's gay, Michael. He's been struggling with his sexuality all these years, and he turned to prostitution as a way to express himself." Michael recoiled as if physically struck, his face draining of color. That's impossible. Are you sure?" I nodded, my voice firm. "Yes, I'm sure. He opened up to me, shared things he's never told anyone." Michael paced the room, his hands clenched into fists. "This is too much. First the prostitution, now this? How can we trust him after all this deception?" I watched him, my heart aching for both of them. "We have to try, Michael. We can't turn our backs on him now." He stopped, turning to face me, his expression hardened by anger and hurt. "Maybe we should. Maybe this is a sign that we need to distance ourselves from him. For good." The words stung, but part of me understood his reaction. The trust had been shattered, and rebuilding it seemed like an insurmountable task. Over the next few days, the tension between Michael and I grew palpable. Each conversation about David led to arguments, each argument deepening the rift between us. The once solid foundation of our marriage was cracking under the weight of secrets and betrayals. One evening, as we sat in silence at the dinner table, I finally spoke the words that had been weighing on my mind. Maybe we should separate. Michael, this isn't healthy for either of us. He looked up, his eyes filled with a mix of pain and relief. Are you sure? Is this what you really want? I hesitated, then nodded. Yes, I think it is. We can't keep going like this. It's tearing us apart. He sighed, reaching out to take my hand. If that's what you need, then I won't stand in your way. But let's not make any rash decisions. Let's take some time to think about this. I agreed, grateful for his understanding even as our world shifted beneath our feet. The decision to separate was a painful one, but it felt necessary, a step towards healing and self-preservation. As the days passed, the separation became official. We divided our belongings, our lives, and prepared to move forward separately. The process was emotionally draining, each item a reminder of the life we had built together. One night, as I packed the last of my things, Michael appeared at the door, his expression unreadable. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice soft. I nodded, setting down the box I was holding. "Of course. What's on your mind?" He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about what happened with David, and I wanted to apologize." Surprised, I gestured for him to continue. "For what, Michael?" He sighed, looking down at his hands. "For how I reacted, for letting my anger and hurt get the best of me. I shouldn't have pushed you away like that." I reached out, placing a hand on his arm. "It's okay. We were both hurt, both overwhelmed by everything that happened." He nodded, meeting my gaze. "But that doesn't excuse my behavior. I love you, and I don't want to lose you over this." Tears welled up in my eyes as I absorbed his words. "I love you too, Michael, but we can't go back to the way things were. We need to find a new path forward." He pulled me into a hug, his arms wrapping tightly around me. "Then let's find that path together. Let's figure out how to rebuild, to forgive, to move past this." As we stood there, locked in each other's embrace, I felt a glimmer of hope flicker to life within me. Perhaps, just perhaps, we could find a way to heal, to overcome the betrayals and secrets that had torn us apart. The journey ahead would be difficult, fraught with challenges and uncertainties, but as long as we walked it together, hand in hand, I believed that we could emerge stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before.